أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واضرب لهم مثل الرجلين جعلنا لأحدهما جنتين من أعناب وحففناهما بنخل وجعلنا بينهما زرعا كلتا الجنتين آتت أكلها ولم تظلم منه شيئا وفجرنا خلالهما نهرا وكان له ثمر فقال لصاحبه وهو يحاوره أنا أكثر منك مالا وأعز نفرا ودخل جنته وهو ظالم لنفسه قال ما أظن أن تبيد هذه أبدا وما أظن الساعة قائمة ولئن رددت إلى ربي لأجدن خيرا منها منقلبا قال له صاحبه وهو يحاوره أكفرت بالذي خلقك من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم سواك رجلا لكن هو الله ربي ولا أشرك بربي أحدا ولولا إذ دخلت جنتك قلت ما شاء الله لا قوة إلا بالله إن ترني أنا أقل منك مالا وولدا فعسى ربي أن يؤتيني خيرا من جنتك ويرسل عليها حسبانا من السماء فتصبح صعيدا زلقا أو يصبح ماؤها غورا فلن تستطيع له طلبا وأحيط بثمره فأصبح يقلب كفيه على ما أنفق فيها وهي خاوية على عروشها ويقول يا ليتني لم أشرك بربي أحدا ولم تكن له فئة ينصرونه من دون الله وما كان منتصرا هنالك الولاية لله الحق هو خير ثوابا وخير عقبا صدق الله العظيم. My dear respected brothers and elders, in today's dars of Surah Al-Kahf, it's a story, a very brief story, about two friends or two relatives who had a conversation whilst walking inside an orchard, inside a bagh, in a garden, beautiful garden. They both had a conversation. One of them was a Muslim and the other was a Kafir. The relationship with today's story and previous dars is yesterday, if you remember, we covered those verses of Surah Al-Kahf in which was mentioned to the Prophet ﷺ that the poor Sahaba that are sitting with you, never mind moving them from your gathering, do not even lift your attention from them. Ubay bin Khalif and other elite of Makkah, they requested Prophet ﷺ, if you move these poor Sahaba from your gathering and give us a special session of da'wah and invitation to Allah, these people may accept Islam. Normally people will think this is practical, give them a VIP session and maybe they'll accept Islam. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that these rich, arrogant, elite, they're not going to accept Islam. They're very stubborn and obstinate. And if the poor people are moved from the gathering, it will hurt them and pain them. And these poor people, they're sincere people. They were sincere, yes, and they used to day and night seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we mentioned yesterday that if you have an organization, an institute, a movement, as long as you have sincere people within that organization and institute, inshallah, that organization will be successful. Even if you don't have so-called professional people, so-called wealthy people, if you don't have these people, as long as the members are sincere and their objective is Allah-centric and Akhirah-centric. The actions that they do, what the main objective? Is Allah going to be happy? And is this beneficial for my Akhirah? These are the two main goals. If we have these two goals inside any endeavor and organization, inshallah, we will not gain loss, inshallah. So, related to that incident now, the Prophet ﷺ is giving Mushrikeen in Makkah an example of a true story that happened in the past. The Quran and the Hadith doesn't give details, much details. All we know that there were two men before the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and one of them had two orchards, Jannatain, two gardens of trees, beautiful, and وَحَفَفْنَاهُمَا بِنَخْدَ, were engulfed in date palm trees, date, all those. So you've got two gardens, yes, and they're both surrounded by, engulfed by date trees, palm trees, and in the middle of the two there's also a plantation of crops, yes, and as the Quran mentions, between those two orchards there was a river always flowing, and وَلَمْ تَظْلِمْ مِنْهُ شَيْئًا. During the entire year, the fruits of these two orchards would never ever decrease. It would always bear fruit, always. You know, sometimes once a year, twice a year. This was constantly. So this belonged to who? The kafir, the non-Muslim friend. The Muslim friend, bichara, he was poor, he didn't have anything. Or relative. They were either relatives or good friends. So they're walking inside this beautiful garden, these orchards. And the non-Muslim, the kafir friend says, yeah, listen. أنا أكثر منك مالا وأعز نفرا. I've got more wealth than you. I've got more manpower than you. I'm more popular. तेरे पास है क्या? Where will you go? You're calling me to Islam. You're calling me to La ilaha illallah. Success is in this kalima. Success in Islam. But you don't have anything. Look at this. If the criteria of success and the criteria of being, getting salvation is what you're saying, then look at this, look at you. It happens today, this, It happens today. People, they measure their success because of money, wealth, fame. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us a lesson. Do not be deceived by this. But this is an example. And in other places Allah says, لا يغرنك تقلب الذين كفروا في البلاد. Those who constantly move from city to city, travel, mashallah, Ustad used to say, to suit tie, briefcase, kabhi Dubai mein, kabhi Fiji Island mein, kabhi idhar, kabhi udhar. Do not let that deceive you. Mata'un qaleel is only a few days of taking benefit. ثم مأواهم جهنم, and then the final abode is Jahannam. So having a lot of wealth and without iman is not success. It can also be istidraj. سَنَسْتَدْرِجُهُمْ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Allah said, we will gradually give them respite from such avenues that they cannot even imagine, not know. What does istidraj mean? Istidraj means that a person is given so much blessings and wealth that he begins to sin openly, thinking that he is successful and that he's made it, only until he suddenly faces a calamity and he dies. It's like an ant, you've got an ant here, the ant is walking, masti ke saath, drunk, intoxicated, thinking that he's going to reach his destination, end of this hand, And I'm looking at his, he's walking and doing the moonwalk in my hand. Must. And all of a sudden, what do? This is istidraj. May Allah save us. حتى إذا فتحنا عليهم حتى إذا نسوا ما ذكروا به فتحنا عليهم أبواب كل شيء. When they start forgetting the deen of Allah, they start becoming rebellious, Allah opens the doors for blessings. Sab kuch. This car, mashallah, this house, sab kuch. حتى إذا فرحوا بما أوتوا حتى إذا فرحوا بما أوتوا أخذناهم بغتة. When they become arrogant and happy and proud with what they have, they start boasting. Allah says, I grab them all of a sudden. I grab them all of a sudden. فَقُطِعَ دَابِرُ الْقَوْمِ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا. And then the transgressors, they are uprooted from the foundations, finished. Nothing remains of them. And it happens. A person, is must intoxicated, is enjoying life, and all of a sudden, windows down, music's high, he's on a high and he hits a road and he dies all of a sudden. May Allah save us from a sudden death. So wealth is not the criteria of success. Mal is not the criteria. He's telling the mushrikeen in Makkah, because they asked the Prophet ﷺ that we are rich, we should get a private session. Allah is saying no. Having wealth and status in this dunya, this is not the criteria of success. If that was the criteria, then Abu Jahl, Fir'aun, Qarun, Haman, were they successful? They were not successful. Even though they had richness, they had wealth, they had status, but Allah humiliated them so bad that till today, until Qiyamah, nobody is willing to even name their sons after them, even though they were millionaires, billionaires at that time. Does anybody say, this is my son Qarun Sahib? I have another son Fir'aun. Does anybody say this? It's a slur. It's an insult to call somebody Fir'aun and Qarun and Haman. Conversely, you had Bilal radiallahu ta'ala an, a dark complex. Abyssinia, he was a slave freed. The mushrikeen in Makkah didn't even look at him. Allahu Akbar. He stood on the Kaaba and he gave adhan. An honor that nobody else received. Prophet ﷺ said, Oh Bilal, I can hear your footsteps in Jannah. What do you do? He said, Ya Rasulullah, I don't have any big action. The only thing I do is, after Islam, I've accepted Islam. Every time I do ablution, wudu, I pray 2 rakat. This is probably the reason. Until Qiyamah, Bilal radiallahu ta'ala name will be mentioned. Masjid Bilal. This is my son Bilal, Allahu Akbar. Bilal. Fakhr ke saath. People with pride and honor, they keep their name Bilal. But in terms of social status, in terms of wealth, all of these things, Abu Jahl, Abu Lahab were far greater. But Allah finished them. Even their names cannot be tolerated. Never mind anything else. So similarly, this happened here. This is a conversation. Let's read the verses inshallah, and it's quite self-explanatory. وَاضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ الرَّجُلَيْنِ. Give them an example of 2 men. جَعَلْنَا لِأَحَدِهِمَا جَنَّتَيْنِ مِنْ أَعْنَابٍ. We made for one of them 2 orchards of grapes. So it's 2 big gardens of grapes. وَحَفَفْنَاهُمَا بِنَخْلٍ. And we surrounded these 2 orchards with dates, date palms. وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمَا زَرْعًا. And we had grown a plantation between the 2. So between the 2 orchards there was also crops. كِلْتَ الْجَنَّتَيْنِ آتَتْ أُكُلَهَا. Both orchards bore fruit. They used to produce fruit. And they did not transgression, they did not withhold in anything, meaning there was no deficiency in these 2 orchards. All year round, continuously producing fruit. وَفَجَّرْنَا خِلَالَهُمَا نَهَرًا. And we even caused a river to gush forth between the 2. So, giving water to the plants and the fruit is easy. They don't have to go far. done, subhanallah, automatically, simultaneously. وَكَانَ لَهُ ثَمَرٌ, and he also had other fruit. Fruit here down here doesn't mean just fruit, it means any excessive wealth. He had other wealth too, this person, this non-Muslim. So in addition to these orchards, he had other types of wealth. فَقَالَ لِصَاحِبِهِ وَهُوَ يُحَاوِرُهُ, so he said to his friend, his companion, the Muslim one, while speaking to him, they were having a nice walk, sometimes go for a walk with your friend. He said to him, أَنَا أَكْثَرُ مِنْكَ مَالًا وَعَزُ نَفَرًا, I am more wealthy than you, and my people are more dominant. And when it comes to mal, wealth, I am greater than you. And when it comes to nasab, lineage, look, Chaudhry, Khan, Raj, I have. Yeah? Arrogance, isn't it? We define it. It's so subhanallah. This is so ajeeb. It's actually crazy, you know, not just ajeeb. That we have pride and we put one another down based on borders that the non-Muslims have made for us. Boundaries that the British colony made for us, that this is your land, this is your land, this is your land, made the Muslim countries into pieces, and then we fight one another because of this identity. That was not even made by us, by the way. If you read the history, you'll be shocked. If you read British colony, how they ruled and what kind of division they made within the Ummah, and then we fight over that. Ajeeb. Ta'assub. We have ta'assub, don't we? Especially Pakistanis. We complain of racism. Going races, have I? We're the biggest races going. We have our own, you know, Bengali, Pathan, Masjid, Pakistani Masjid. If an African brother accepted Islam, would you give your daughter to him? Okay, give me your daughter to him. You won't even give it to somebody who's not in your caste. If you're Chaudhry, you'll give it to Raj. If you're Raj, you'll give it to Chaudhry. That's the truth. Until we don't eradicate this problem within the Ummah, brothers, then we will not succeed as an Ummah. You know, racism, ta'assub, is a big problem. And the Prophet ﷺ practically, he removed this from the Sahaba. The Ansar and the Muhajirin and Aus and Khazraj. You read about these different tribes, what kind of enmity they had before Islam, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used Prophet ﷺ to unite them. Yes, it's ta'aruf. Moroccan, Pakistani, yes, alhamdulillah, it's a good thing. But to make that as a barrier, you know, our law. We say our law, innit? Our language, we otherize people with our language. The language that we use, we otherize people, we treat them differently. Hamare apna sati hai. You say, no, I say, we all say, apna sati, my sati. So he said this to him. And then he says, وَدَخَلَ جَنَّتَهُ, and then he entered his orchard, وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ, whilst he was a transgressor upon himself. Why? Because he didn't believe in Allah, he was a non-Muslim. قَالْ مَا أَظُنُّ أَن تَبِيدَ هَذِهِ أَبَدًا, and he said, I do not think that this garden will ever be destroyed. Hi, boy. What did they say? They said about Titanic that even God can't drown this. Is that true? Yes, you got knowledge about these things. Yeah. So he said, yeah. Yeah. Nobody can destroy this. So much confidence in what they've built. Nobody can destroy this. It's similar. I don't think this will ever be destroyed. Look, beautiful, stupendous, big, marvelous, fantastic, flabbergasting. Nobody can destroy this. And then he went a step further. وَمَا أَظُنُّ السَّاعَةَ قَائِمَةً, I don't think Qiyamah will also come. He was a non-Muslim. And then he said, if he did come, وَلَئِن رُدِدْتُ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي لَأَجْدَنَّ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا مُنْقَلَبًا, if I should ever be returned to my Rabb, if Qiyamah does, if it is real and I do return, I shall certainly find a better place over there too. Yani, I'm so next level that I've got all of this in this dunya, and if there is akhirah, I'll have good there too. Because I am who I am. Arrogance. Have you noticed, brothers? Arrogance is the key problem. Takabbur, even kufr. Kufr, subhanallah. Why does a person reject Allah? Pride. What does the Quran say? وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى جَهَنَّمَ زُمَرًا. Allah speaks about those people of Jahannam, groups that will be dragged to Jahannam in groups. Yes? When they enter the next to the doors. What does Allah say in the next verse? قِيلَ ادْخُلُوا أَبْوَابَ جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا. Allah, it will be said to them, enter the doors of Jahannam in which you will remain forever. فَبِئْسَ مَثْوَى الْمُتَكَبِّرِينَ. How evil is the abode of those who had pride. Even though the groups who are being addressed are the kafirin. The groups that are being addressed are the kuffar, the disbelievers. But what did Allah say? فَبِئْسَ مَثْوَى الْمُتَكَبِّرِينَ. How evil is the abode of those who have pride. Why is this? The groups that are being addressed are kafirin, but Allah says the abode of these mutakabbirin. Why? Because the actual reason for kufr, rejection, is pride. Pride is al-Amrad, brothers, is the mother of all illnesses. Shaykh Zakaria Rahmatullah alayhi has written a treatise, al-Amrad, mother of all illnesses. Our Ustad, make dua for him. He had some heart problem a few days ago. Allah grant him shifa. He would say, twice a year you should read this book, especially students, twice a year minimum. And in there, Shaykh Rahimahullah, he explains how illness of the heart, like anger is because of pride, jealousy is because of pride, hiqd is because of pride, ujub is because of pride. He explains in this. And even kufr, like Imam Ghazali also explained, the reason for kufr is pride. So you'll see this will be the underlying theme in these stories, pride.
There's a lot of non-Muslims in this day and age because they got wealth and everything, and they think if they do die, even though they don't believe in God, they think if there is a God, you're going to be
because they're deserving.
Yeah.
That's what
because they're already getting so much in this life, because they're special.
They're special, exactly. They feel they're entitled because of who they are. So now his friend, who's a Muslim, is giving him da'wah. He says, قَالَ لَهُ صَاحِبُهُ. So his companion said to him, وَهُوَ يُحَاوِرُهُ, whilst having this conversation with him, أَكَفَرْتَ بِالَّذِي خَلَقَكَ مِن تُرَابٍ. Do you reject, do you disbelieve in the one who created you from sand? Turab, meaning your forefather, your father, Adam alayhi salam. ثُمَّ مِن نُطْفَةٍ. And then from a drop of sperm, meaning everybody else, we all been created from a drop of liquid. ثُمَّ سَوَّاكَ رَجُولًا. And then he perfected you into a man. And the one who created you from nothing, you were nothing. You were not even worth mentioning. You were in the fetus of your mother's womb, fi dhulamatin thalath, in 3 darknesses. You were nothing, you were like a dirty, filthy liquid. From there he's made you into such a complete, full human, and now you're rejecting him. As I mentioned a few days ago, Imam Sanusi Rahmatullah alayhi says that the nutfa, the sperm, the drop of sperm is not the cause for your creation. The drop of sperm is not the cause of your creation. Why? Because when a person is created and they have these properties of qudra, power, irada, will, and ilm, knowledge, yes? You know, when you're a human, full human, you have will, you have certain power, you have certain knowledge. You are not able to create anything, any other person like yourself. Yes or no? No. So when you're a dirty drop of fluid which doesn't have these properties, it doesn't have knowledge, it doesn't have power, it doesn't have will, how can that create a person? And then the atoms are, in terms of the ontological existence, they're all the same, the atoms in the drop. So then it should have turned into a large chapati if it grew in an equal spherical dimension, but no, head, heart, ear, subhanallah. Who's doing this? Allah. So he's saying to him, that Allah who created you from nothing, you're rejecting him. As for me, لَكِنَّهُ اللَّهُ رَبِّي, Allah is my Rabb. He's my creator. وَلَا أُشْرِكْ بِرَبِّ أَحَدًا, and I will not associate anybody with my Rabb. And then of course this guy is walking inside the orchard as with arrogance and they look like Pharaoh. Pharaoh, look, the rivers, you know, in the Quran, what does he say? أليس مصر أليس لي ملك مصر وهذه الأنهار تجري من تحتي. Doesn't the kingdom of Misr belong to me, and doesn't these rivers flow below me? He was such an idiot that when Musa alayhi salatu wasalam was in front of him with Banu Israel, and Allah had opened the way, the sea for Musa alayhi salam, he's chasing them and he's saying to his people, look, it's open for me. That's how deluded this guy was. Arrogance. Look, it's open for me. Not for them, for me. Ajib. So this, he's walking in his orchard, his koti. Yes? And he's not remembering Allah, he's not saying anything. So he's saying to him, وَلَوْلَا إِذْ دَخَلْتَ جَنَّتَكَ. Why is it not the case that when you enter your orchard, you enter your garden, قُلْتَ, you say, مَا شَاء اللَّهِ لَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Say, مَا شاء اللَّهِ لَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. It is how Allah wants it. And there is no might except through Allah. The narration, the hadith by Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that if you see something beautiful, say, MashaAllah, la quwwata illa billah. Inshallah, that thing will be saved from evil eye. It will be saved from harm. Not that, oi, kasme, oi, next level, oi. Stuff. And then that thing blows up. I guess bimar next day, he has fever. Can't get out of bed. He was given such a bad evil eye. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. And then he says, إن ترني أنا أقل منك مالا وولدا فعسى ربي أن يؤتيني خيرا من جنتك ويرسل عليها حسبانا من السماء فتصبح صيدا زلقا أو يصبح ماؤها غورا فلن تستطيع طلبا. He's saying, even though, look, even if you think I have less wealth and fewer children than you, yes, which is true, then it is possible, the time is close, when my Rabb shall grant me better than your orchard. And it's also possible, that Allah can give me better in the future. Yes, maybe now I don't, but in the future, Allah can give me better. Because everything is in Allah's control. And it is also possible that Allah sends on your garden a calamity from the sky, turning the entire orchard into a plain field. It can happen. Don't have pride over what you have. Maybe tomorrow I will have more than what you have today, and tomorrow you may have nothing. Hasn't this happened, brothers, in our own lifetime? When millionaires, billionaires, overnight, what's happened? They've lost everything. In a tsunami, in an earthquake. Yes? Recently when there was that fire in America where a lot of the celebrities, California, it happens. A billionaire overnight, in the morning, he can be a beggar on the street. These are in Allah's control. These circumstances are in Allah's control. Or أو يصبح ماؤها غورا فلن تستطيع له طلبا. Or its water would sink into the depths of the earth, after which you will not be able to even look for the water. Yani, the river which is sustaining your orchard, is possible that all of the water goes into the earth and it becomes dry and you are not able to find more water. What are you going to do then? But there's water, it's such a big, wallahi, what if there's no water for a few days? We probably die because of the smell. Big ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ الْمَاءَ الَّذِي تَشْرَبُونَ, Allah saying, is water that you drink. أَأَنْتُمْ أَنزَلْتُمُوهُ مِنَ الْمُزْنِ أَمْ نَحْنُ الْمُنزِلُونَ. Do you make it descend from the clouds, or do we make it? Allah said, I can make it bitter. I can make the water so bitter that you will not be able to drink. This water that we have, we don't even realize there's a big ni'mah from Allah. Imagine if the water stopped with this. Allah ordered the sky, no more water. What will happen? No technology on earth, nothing on earth can bring water. So giving this advice, of course, he ignored the advice because he was on the peak of his pride. So what happened is, one night, a calamity came. وَأُحِيطَ بِثَمَرِهِ. So his fruit, all his wealth was engulfed, meaning it was engulfed by a calamity. This was either something from the sky, some natural disaster, thunderbolt, or maybe a strong wind. The Quran doesn't mention specifically, it just uses the word وَأُحِيطَ بِثَمَرِهِ فَأَصْبَحَ يُقَلِّبُ كَفَّيْهِ. It doesn't give exactly what it was, but it was some sort of calamity that engulfed all his wealth and orchards, and everything finished overnight. So what did he do? فَأَصْبَحَ يُقَلِّبُ كَفَّيْهِ عَلَى مَا أَنْفَقَ فِيهَا وَهِيَ خَابِتٌ عَلَى عُرُوشِهَا. So when he saw this, he began to turn his hands because of sorrow. Oh, ho, ho, ho. What's happened? Imagine you wake up one morning and everything you've built is finished. وَهِيَ خَابِتٌ عَلَى عُرُوشِهَا. Everything had collapsed on its foundation, on its trellis. You know, trellis is the framework of the orchards. It had fallen down. The frameworks of the orchards had fallen down. So he said, وَيَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أُشْرِكْ بِرَبِّي أَحَدًا. If only I had not ascribed any partner to my Rabb. Now he's not saying this because of regret of Iman. If that was the case, then this would be Tawbah. He's saying this because of the loss of the financial loss. So he's not worried about not having Iman and doing shirk. He was worried about that if he didn't do shirk, then his finance would have been okay. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَمْ تَكُنْ لَهُ فِئَةٌ يَنْصُرُونَهُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ وَمَا كَانَ مُنْتَصِرًا. He had no troops, meaning no power, family or friends, to assist him against Allah. Neither could he avenge himself. He couldn't do anything. Nor can he take revenge. What revenge is he going to take? Allah has destroyed people, nations. قَوْمِ عَادٍ قَوْمِ ثَمُودٍ فَدَمْدَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّهُمْ بِذَنْبٍ فَسَوَّاهَا. Allah leveled them with the earth. وَلَا يَخَافُ عُقْبَاهَا. Allah does not fear the revenge of people. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders the earth to swallow, can anybody stop the earth? If Allah orders the sky to rain down fire, can anybody stop? Can any technology stop? If Allah orders this ocean, yes? What's the biggest ocean?
I think it's Pacific.
Pacific Ocean. Imagine Allah orders the whole water just 100 miles per hour go towards the land. Can anybody stop it? Nobody can stop. No technology, no nuclear, no atom. Nobody can stop it. No White House, Oval Office, nothing. Nobody can do anything.
We had that major tsunami many years ago.
Yes. Nobody can do anything. Allah. هنالك الولاية لله الحق هو خير ثوابا وخير عقبا. At times like this, when tragedies come like this, assistance is only from Allah, the true Ilah. And at times that this, a person realizes that if anybody is going to help, he is only Allah. Because nobody in the world can do anything. But we don't want to realize at a time like that. We want to realize before that, yes? We don't want to realize at a time where it's too late. We want to realize before this, and this is why we read these stories and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives these examples. هُوَ خَيْرٌ ثَوَابًا وَخَيْرٌ عُقْبًا. It's Allah, He is the best for reward and the best in the end. Because whatever reward Allah gives you is everlasting. And whatever result you get from Allah, a good result is also everlasting. And whatever result you get in the dunya, even if it's a very good result, if it's a perfect result, it's not everlasting, is it? Only a few days. Even if you have a very good business, it's only a few days. You have a very good car, a few days, house, few days. Everything is only a few days. It was the Aurangzeb, the king. when he was making a ring, and he told his slave, tell me what to write, tell me what to engrave in this ring. So every time I look at this ring, I take a lesson. If it's a good time, I look at this, I take a lesson, and if it's a bad time, I look at this, I take a lesson. So he said, right, ye waqt bhi guzar jayega. This time will also pass. This time will, whatever time you're going through, my dear brothers, whatever suffering you're going through now, whatever joy you're going through now, whatever happiness you're going through now, whatever success, faith, whatever you're going through now is only temporary. The success of the dunya is temporary. The failure of the dunya is also temporary. The success of the akhirah is eternal, is real success. The failure of the akhirah is also eternal. It is actual failure. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us true success and eternal success. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanallah.
So what was the ending of the rich person? Did he